Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Third Sunday Politics Talks on a Gathering Place, hosted by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Marilyn Hemingway, and I'm looking forward to being joined by my co-hosts, Brandon Upson and Jamarr Brown. We're going to be talking SCOTUS pick, Black female opportunity on the Supreme Court of the United States, the Super Bowl, and local school boards and CRT. We'll be right back after this opening.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said, I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard, and they're moving on something.
Branding is really important to you and your business.
Even a basic type of technology, you learn it all.
And people are
Good question.
Hey folks, we're back, and let me go ahead and bring Brandon Upson in. Brandon,
Marilyn, I'm good. Man, I was so happy to see you at the State House this week.
I was happy to see you too. I was happy to be there. It was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful event. Just to let y'all know quickly, I hopped up to Columbia this week for an environmental legislative day with New Alpha CDC led by Reverend Leo Woodbury, who has been in the environmental justice fight for decades. And I'm honored, Brandon, I was honored to hang out with him for the day.
Man, that whole crew that you were with is a powerhouse bunch. I got a chance to meet Chief Jay and his wife the night before. That was my first time meeting them in the PD Indian tribe leaders. And Reverend Woodbury is just a walking, living legend. So I've always known him, but always happy to see him. And you just put the cherry on top. So.
Well, thank you. I was happy. Always happy to hang out with my little brothers and everything.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. I know I stated the three topics we were going to talk about, but we'll talk about this briefly. We need more Black folks in South Carolina really to be in the environmental movement. We really do. Y'all, there are plenty of opportunities to get trained, reach out to different environmental organizations. If you don't know of any, contact the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. I'll be happy to let you know. They are everything from American Rivers to Sierra Club, Conservation Voters. And what I like to say at the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce and the work that we do in environmental and green renewable energy is a healthy environment means healthy people, healthy businesses, healthy communities. Literally, the water we drink, what we grow in the ground and put in our bodies impact what goes on in our head and our physical body, which impacts the community. And if our environment is not healthy, we are not a healthy people. I don't care who you are, So anytime I can have a chance to just go and show where the Gullah Geechee Chamber stands and what we support, I'm going to hop on it and do it. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, you put it so plainly just now and just like you did at the meeting. But what folks don't realize is, EJ, environmental justice. What does that mean? What does that mean to us? And how does it show up? It shows up in little kids having respiratory issues and asthma just because of, the air that they're breathing. In Hampton County for years, they had this stack of trash that was burning continuously for years and putting arsenic and other toxins in the air, creating, like I said, asthma, bronchitis, cancer. And it wasn't until we got national attention onto that burning heap that they had just been dousing with water continuously, but not doing anything to solve it. Then they removed it after that attention got on it. But the communities that surrounded it were Black and brown communities. Greenwood, Denmark, Sumter, Abbeville, all of these places have recently, within the last 3 years, had major water crises where chemicals that aren't supposed to be in your water are there in high levels, causing damage to unknown damage to our children and to our just to our residents who are drinking that water or bathing in it. This is environmental justice.
Yeah.
You know, these are just two pieces of it, and folks need to know that it affects us all. If it affects a small part of it, it affects us all. So we got to get involved.
It most certainly does. And those are just two examples that you gave, and there are just so many more. And we just come to accept it. Just where I live in Georgetown, what was Georgetown known for is the smell of the paper mill.
Right.
If you smell it, folks, it's in your body. I mean, for years, but you're not taught that. I too had to learn that, because for years, even now, we talk about when we smell it, that's the smell of money, but at what cost? We have paid a price for that. You know, that Santee Cooper poisoning Sanpit River, where I remember in middle school going crabbing at the intersection of the Sanpit River and Winyah Bay, and we would take a bushel of crabs home. And around middle school, those signs went up: do not fish, do not crab in these waters, but once a week. Man, after that, we stop. We don't go down there. I'm like, well, how do you measure that? Once a week. You know, mercury, literally, and we know mercury kills us, right? You know, mercury, and in the last more than 10 years, that DHEC didn't do the permits for Santee Cooper, which meant they weren't measuring what they were supposed to be measuring. And this is like they're telling you, don't go in the water. I'm like, this is crazy.
I got one last example like yours over in the Broad River in Columbia, where they had that coal tar that was dumped in the water, and they couldn't remove it, so they just put nets out there in the water. What is that going to do? They just got nets just to keep it, you know, isolated to a certain area, but that's not stopping it. You know?
And it leaches, so it may physically say stop, but it's leaching chemicals. What we don't see is what's so dangerous, and it's bad enough what we see is dangerous, but what we don't see is even more dangerous. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what we do with the environmental work and why it's so important, and why the Gullah Geechee, we're so inherently tied to that water and that land. You know, that's part of our culture, and it's just that's why I do the work in the environmental justice. Cannot have economic justice without environmental justice. It's just not possible for anybody. But we have some topics we want to get into today. And hopefully Jamarr will be able to jump on with us, because they're having a voter crisis in Texas, but I don't know enough about it to talk about it. But because of being co-executive director of the Texas State Democratic Party, he is occupied, and hopefully he can hop on and spend some time with us today. But let's talk about the Supreme Court of the United States selection. It looks like, well, Biden has said that he's going to select a Black woman. And I was going to say qualified Black woman, but I'm not going to say that, because any Black woman, we don't have to temper that by saying qualified, because they're qualified. If they're considered, they're qualified. But I felt that because as soon as you heard Black woman, Lord Ted, what's Texas again? The guy, Ted from Texas.
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz, who likes to go to Cancun, started with his racism. You know, I'm at the point now, you know, I just call it what it is. It's racism. But anyway, you know, the right-wing attacks. I even had somebody on my Facebook page. I don't even know who this man is, and I posted something, and he was posting about, they ignored the qualified Asians, Hispanics, etc. A white man trying to conquer and divide by making it because he's considering a Black woman, he ignored qualified Asians. Like, no, they're not the problem. You're a white man trying to play a racial card. You know, that's what they're doing with affirmative action. trying to pit Asian Americans against African Americans. But your thought regarding the pick. We even have a South Carolinian, Judge Childs, who's on the list. She's on the list, and I have to say that means that my school, the University of South Carolina Law School, is on the list. So I'm gonna be honest. If she is selected, I'll be happy just because of that. Those two things, South Carolina, USC. But I think I really I want a liberal. I want a liberal Black woman, and for many reasons. And as he said, thank you. Yep, it needs to be a woke Black woman. Yep, woke Black women. Your thoughts, Brandon? SCOTUS Black female selection.
Man, I'm excited. All these other things. Lord, I turned 36 last December. And I'm getting to this point. I'm getting to this point where I'm like, all this other stuff is just distractions. Like they try to do this thing where they come out waving their hands to try to get your attention, and they'll run down this little rabbit hole and hope that you'll run after them. And that's all Ted Cruz and the racist cabal of his friends and cohorts have done. They're just trying to get our attention, and they're trying to lead us down this never-ending rabbit hole of defending, whether we're qualified or not, or, it's racism if we're talking about selecting a Black woman specifically for a position. When these candidates for Black or white men come up, there's never a question about their qualifications. Even when we had the Kavanaugh hearings, no one questioned Brett Kavanaugh's qualifications. When Donald Trump selected Amy, what's her name? The woman
Harris, yeah, Amy, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Amy on there, no one ever questioned her qualifications. But as soon as we talk about having the first Black woman out of 103 justices over time, now we're finally about to have a Black woman, and now we have to make sure she's quote unquote qualified. I'm just so done and fed up with their sirens, because they're not dog whistles. And I'm upset about the fact that this is the type of rhetoric and language that motivates the foundation and base of the Republican Party. Getting beyond that, I think that we should, as American citizens, not just Black citizens or African Americans, American citizens should watch and be a part of this process of selecting the very first Black woman to sit on the high court, and we should have our little boys and little girls be a part of this as well, because this is what's going to usher us out of this era of I don't want to say calamity, but it's like everybody done lost their daggone minds. And it may not end with us, but I hope it ends with our children, and making sure our children are watching this process and being a part of this history in the making. It'll give them a good benchmark to move forward with. And I'm excited. And I hope and pray that it is our South Carolina sister that gets on that court, because that will just be another great day, great time, because we don't get many of them coming from the South, or coming from, or not coming from Ivy League institutions.
Thank you for saying that. I was going to say it if you didn't say it. that opens up a whole nother level. Have you heard anybody even talk about that? Because I don't care if you're Black or white, they've looked at the Ivy League schools. So that in and of itself makes it a private club for SCOTUS. And it shouldn't be. It should be reflective of the people. So to have someone come from a state college, and I think it's a qualified state college, and yes, I know I'm biased when I say that, but that opens up. Now you're going to have discussions about HBCUs and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. The thread tie everything, folks. let me just say this quickly. I'm going to digress just a little bit, but it ties it in, Brandon. I'm just going to say it. Racism is such a beast. It's so nuanced. And it connects everything. So I say that to say it impacts Black and white people. It holds all of us back. And most white people will not recognize that and admit that because it's race and social economics. And if a state school just breaking that barrier opens up opportunities for white people too.
It does.
It does. And that's what they don't understand. They're attacking and don't realize as long as your foot is on our neck, you can't move either.
Boom.
You know, and they really don't understand that. They get hurt. You know, they think they're hurting us and you're hurting yourself. And I do not say that from a point of sympathy, folks. I don't. I say it from a point of empathy and understanding, but not from sympathy, because racism, I'm just done. And you kind of said it a little bit earlier, Brandon, in your remarks. I really am just done with a lot of stuff. But to see the hurt, I remember going to the women's march and afterwards being attacked by this white man. And I went with white women, one who happened to be Islamic also. And we came back and we all got attacked by this white man. He was like, I don't understand why you went. What was the purpose? And I said, well, I went for you. I went for you. Because I went not only because what I did impacts your wife, your daughters, your sisters. So yeah, I went for me first. But I went for you as a white man. Yeah. Because this is impacting the females in your life. You know, y'all got to get with that really quickly. It's not just about a Black female. Even the environmental thing that we just had. Poison in water does not know whether you Black or white. Yeah. It disproportionately impacts Black and brown people because y'all like to put industrial plants in our neighborhoods and stuff. We're like the front line of the impact, but ultimately it gets to you too. Yeah. So you can't, we're all on this one planet together. So when we start talking about a Black woman who could possibly come from a state school and be on the Supreme Court, it lowers not just barriers for Black women, it lowers barriers actually for everyone, especially when a Black woman succeeds in what our society defines. It impacts everyone. It does. And you were going to exactly where I wanted to go in this. Go ahead, because you know, go ahead. I like to hear from an intelligent Black man. But Sojourner Truth said, you know, during the March for Women's Suffrage, she stood up when they didn't want her to speak, and she said, "Ain't I a woman?" And we take that literally as she's a woman and she wants to fight for this, but no, I look at it as progress for Black folks in America is progress for everyone. When we make progress and open doors, that doesn't make it an exclusive door just for Black people. That is a door that more folks can come through. So when we talk about these Ivy League private clubs that have been created in Washington, you know, around our government, when we open up the door and allow, you know, state schools, public schools, HBCUs to be able to walk through those doors, now that opens it up for everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to have an Ivy League education to be smart, brilliant, or talented, right? I'm in my head, I keep hearing "Ain't I a Woman" and looking at what that movement did for so many other people. And I feel like sometimes we lose out because of the counter messaging that the Republicans put out that, oh man, if we only talking about Black folks, you know, that's going to turn people off, or it's going to show that we're biased or whatever. No. Again, history shows when we advance, everyone advances. Mm-hmm. When Black folks advanced in the civil rights movement, that opened the door for women and now LGBTQ communities to also have their civil rights and have justice and protections, you know? So all this other stuff, again, going back to it being distractions.
Moving on.
Yeah. Distractions because they want to maintain the system that they control and they benefit from financially and for other reasons. So they throw out these distractions and we get caught up in it. I want to say something. You said everybody benefits with the civil rights movement. One of the things that and I just really learned this and understood this fairly recently was the civil rights, the movement created the Immigration Act of 1964. So immigrants benefited from the civil rights movement. And I hope that even the average immigrant since then, and they tend to be more Black and brown because of that. Prior to that, it was all about European nations, literally embedded in law. But the immigrant law of 1964, which came out of the civil rights movement, which means Martin Luther King, all of them supported this, increased the numbers of Black and brown immigrants. That is why we see pushback with Trump and all of that. That opened that door. And when you hear often too many immigrants, not all, who, because American TV puts out this image of Black Americans, African Americans, as being violent or lazy or always in trouble, they have this image of us and they come here and don't realize we were the ones that opened the door for you to be here.
Right.
You know, didn't have to do that. We had our own issues to deal with. But this is why CRT is so important. And I'm not even segue into that yet, but we don't get there. But that's.
And I was looking at Eric Grant's messages.
I'll put it back up because I'm getting that. I believe dominance of the court further complicates our notions of meritocracy. We expand the circle of persons, of castes, if not classes. I love this, Eric. I read it. I love it because who can speak and who can deliberate our national laws? That is so on point.
It is. And just think about this, when you have these ultra millionaires and their families buying their kids' way into these Ivy League institutions, when they've not earned it, but as soon as we get into these places, people start talking about the reverse racism of affirmative action, right? But then these are the same folks who have that Ivy League pedigree, and these doors are open to them to lead our country, lead these conversations, yet they don't even have the lived experience or I don't want to say intelligence, but to a degree, intelligence to move us, or sensitivity, I should say, to move us into the right direction. That's how you can have someone with a Harvard, Yale background, and they can't work their way out of a wet paper bag, right? So I love that we're going to have someone, hopefully we're going to have someone that represents, the majority of America, who understands the fight, the plight, the hurdles, the struggle of making your way through this system so that she can help fix the system and get us closer to a more perfect union.
Mm-hmm. And I do hope there is some concern from, I think, progressive areas. But, I take all this stuff, distractions, with a grain of salt. Because I saw on the news yesterday, I think it was yesterday, they put up some headlines and there was concern about Judge Childs, some her decisions previously. And rightfully so that there should be some concerns. But, we forget that Warren Burger, there were judges that people assumed were going to end up being conservative and end up being very liberal. Once they got on that court. So I'm willing to wait and see if I'm not going to beat her up over that. Because being a Black woman, you also see things differently. And I'm gonna digress again a little bit from Supreme Court, but as a Black woman, I think people beat up Kamala Harris because of her prosecutorial record. But we've got to learn, and I think this comes with youth, that we see things in our youth more black and white, and I mean that the opinions of it, what life teaches you with age, and y'all, since Mr. 36 threw his age out there. My age is 56. And if nothing else I have learned in life, it is not black and white.
Mm.
It is shades of gray.
Yeah.
And we have got to learn to forgive people for past decisions, because Lord knows I got a lot to forgive myself about for, and I've in general have forgiven myself about a lot of stuff. It makes it easier that I did a lot of my stuff before social media. It can come back and bite me, and that's the truth. You know, we have to look at the totality of experiences, rather than one thing that did that and they're not qualified anymore for that. Because as a society, that hurts us more.
Absolutely. Society.
And
we're always trying to hold someone to a standard of perfection when we ain't perfect ourselves.
Not at all.
And I love what Ebony Hughes wrote on here, 100 Shades of Grey.
That's right. 100 Shades of Grey. Mm-hmm.
And you know, I was talking to some of my union friends, and you know, they were talking about Judge Child's background, especially in these labor cases. And my response to them is, where was this energy when Kavanaugh and Amy and the other fool that Donald Trump put on there, when they were getting nominated? You know, we can't. This is what I don't like, right? I'm writing this. I wrote this to say on Tuesday to my Black Caucus members. But black on black crime don't just happen in the streets. It happens inside of our party structure as well, right? And Democrat on Democrat, progressive on progressive, well-intentioned on well-intentioned crime happens within our party and our movement, and we got to change that. We can't come at each other harder than we fight against those who are trying to oppress us. Mm-hmm. We can't hold ourselves to this level of perfection when we're allowing those who are working against and trying to tear down everything we're working to build up to sneak through the cracks as raggedy as they can be, you know, and this slows us down. Like, why the hell are we going? Why are we going through this with a nominee who is more qualified than the last 3 justices that were nominated and put on the bench? There should be no question about it, right? We need to work to move forward. We're not going to beat each other down, because when she gets on that bench, and I'm speaking this thing into existence, when Judge Childs gets on that bench, we are going to have to continue to work with her, support her, and support the more of Judge Childs, the future Judge Childs, to come onto this bench. If we beat her up, then that will close that door even more to the future young Black women who can get on this court. So we can't do this to ourselves.
No, we can't. We can't afford it at all. And I agree with you on that, Brandon, that we need to make this happen and not be. We just need to make it happen. We do. As a community, as a society, we need to make it happen. But we also not, and I'm going to speak with Brandon a little bit just too. We're not saying this because we're naive. Mm-mm. We're ready to move forward. And we can't move forward if we don't have certain people and organizations broadly in place. We just can't, folks. We can't afford to hurt ourselves anymore. We've got to be more sophisticated and engaged citizens. Yeah. We need a level of sophistication that when we have this pushback over what's going to end up being minor decisions, that is not sophisticated. And I'm just going to call y'all on it. And we just need to be more sophisticated activists, advocates, and voters. And that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
I definitely, as a Black female, don't get everything I want done. I've sucked up a lot of stuff over the years. And We all need to learn that, humble ourselves and learn that. Mm-hmm.
Yep. We got some great stuff coming in from Eric and Ebony here. Yeah, I agree with both of them. There was a question by Ebony. We have some radicals in the Democratic Party in Georgetown that are harmful to the community, whether intentionally or unintentionally. What should we do? I'll let the I'll let the
I love that. You can speak in general. You know what comes down to the most powerful thing that we can be is an informed individual.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge gives you power. Knowledge gives you wealth. And then to recognize that it gives you wealth. We deal with many folks who, and they tend to be mostly white males because of the society that was created, who are not the brightest. They're not particularly smart people. And Michelle Obama said that. She said being at the table with a lot of these folks, meeting them around the world as first lady, she realized these people ain't that smart. And I recognized it. And why do I'm saying this to a very roundabout way to get to this? How do we get to these radicals? Because people don't understand that knowledge gives you power, and they have this image of people, oh, they're getting things done, they got money, they throw money around, or they speak to me. Mm-hmm. Folks like that even like to be in a room with those type of folks, not realizing if you really get knowledge and understand your culture, who you come from, you're smarter than these people. And if you're smarter than them, you can out-strategize them. You can be very intentional in what you want to get accomplished. So I'm going to who she's speaking to in Georgetown. They go out with their hands out to these folks, thinking they're smarter than the rest of us, and don't realize they're getting played. And they impact the community very negatively because of that. Yeah. Because you're blocking blessings for the community when you're going to these folks with your hand out, thinking you doing something, and you're really not. In the long run, you truly are blocking your community, and you better be careful because our young people are watching you, and they're learning from you, and they're learning the wrong stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying this because I'm perfect. I am far from perfect, y'all. But I know. I laughed early because Brandon, I apologize for saying the H word. Y'all don't know when I'm not on this show. I got a little bit of a filthy mouth. Anyway, so it's funny because I got my mouth filthier than Brandon and Jamarr. But these folks, that's what it is. It's people are radical because they have serious lack of self-esteem. And lack of self-esteem comes from lack of knowledge. Knowledge of self, knowledge of society, knowledge of community. That's why the wealth of knowledge, the wealth of being an informed person is very dangerous to society as we know it. And these radicals, it's not just in Georgetown, but in other communities, will always hurt the community. They will always be a poison on the community because they always go the easy route. They always go the money route rather than putting the work in to being a better person and getting knowledge. That takes some serious work. It really does. And until but they play a role for the rest of us. And the role they play for the rest of us is to show us the wrong way of doing things. So they have a purpose too in life. And their purpose, whether they know it or not, is to show us that we are on the right path. You got to hold that mirror up, and most of them don't realize that's their role because they don't have the personal insight to realize that. But their role is actually, everybody has a role to play in this play of life we are all in on this stage. And their role is actually to show the rest of us that is not the way I want to go. Yeah. Yes, I get frustrated. Some of them need to be removed. but all said and done, we all gonna be removed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these folks, they the Chinese proverb says, when you dig a grave for me, dig two, one for me and one for you. You know, we got a lot of folks that need to read those words, but also, you know, going back to our good book, you know, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And, you know, this is one of those things where I feel like these folks are distractions. Yes, they are, you know, a thorn in your butt when you're trying to get work done and you have to continue to fix or put out fires that were unforced errors, you know, undue stress when you're trying to do this work for your community. But these folks will burn themselves out. These folks will fall in the same hole that they dug for you. So the thing that we have to keep doing is doing what we know is best, because we know better, we do better. And we have to keep ourselves on track and our eye on the prize, because everything else is a pure distraction. I wanted to share my lack of knowledge experience, because before I started working at the South Carolina State House, you know, in my head, I was always like, God, why aren't they doing, if they just did this, if these state representatives just said this or just did this, or, you know, just like it was so easy, right? And then I get hired to be the chief strategy officer for the caucus. And I got all the strategies. I'm ready because all y'all have to do is just so simple. So I go in there, and luckily, Robert Ford told me, go in there and just watch and learn, because I came in at the end of the session last year. So he was like, perfect timing. Just go in there. Don't ruffle any feathers. Don't try to save the world. Just figure out where all the light switches are. Figure out who's who does what, and just learn and do that for your first year. And literally this session, after doing that, you know, I've been there for 10 months now. And I've learned so much just by shutting the heck up and listening and watching. And now I understand why they couldn't just do that simple thing I thought from the outside could have been done to save the world, right? So now my understanding of strategy as it pertains to legislation, especially crafting legislation in a state like South Carolina, has just blossomed into this thing. When I go back to the same people I used to, you know, we used to just vent to one another. Now I'm looking at them like, y'all just don't understand. But I would not have known if I had not been placed into this environment. And these same people who are giving us hell while we're out here trying to work, and they're being counterproductive to the mission that we're all trying to accomplish, is because they just don't know. And I separate these folks into three categories: those that don't know but want to know, those that don't know and don't care to know any better, and those who just want to start a fire. And when you figure those out, 2/3 of them can go to hell. That 1/3 that don't know any better but want to know better, those are the ones we invite to the table so that they can learn, so that they can get caught up to speed, so that they can join our ranks, so that we can get this work done. Those other 2/3 are a distraction, and we're going to leave it at that. Lord, I feel 36 is my wisdom year, Marilyn. It's my wisdom year.
That's you well on your way. You well on your way. And look, hey, and you got children to raise, so Absolutely. That's speeding it up. See, I was single. I had to hit 50. That's a whole nother show right there. When you hit 50, that's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level. I was gonna say, when you said that, go and listen. Please tell Senator Ford he was right on that. Y'all, He was so quiet. I didn't know he had the position until afterwards. We were talking one day or something. You said something. I'm like, what? I didn't know you were in this position. I was like, when did you get this position? That's how quiet he was. But you know, my own mother told me the same thing.
Yeah.
She more than once growing up, she told me that same thing. When you enter new spaces, be quiet, listen, observe, and learn before you speak. And that has benefited me so well. And then a friend of mine I've worked in corporate also, but she's been in corporate, retired from corporate. And I was telling her that story, and she said every CEO she met coming into new corporations and stuff, the first thing they did was listen and observe. It could be 8, 10, a whole year. They would go into meetings, introduce themselves, and sit back. Good CEOs do that because even though you're hired, you don't know that corporation. You really don't. Even when you are elected president and you take your oath of office on January 21st, 20th, you don't know what it means to be president until you are president.
Right.
That's why their hair turns gray. As much as they desire it and want it, you don't know it until you are in it. And a good president surrounds himself by smart people, smarter than them in many instances, and they listen, observe, and they study, gain knowledge. That's why they're always giving briefs and stuff, Yeah. I mean, you just don't know until you're in it, but doggone it, once you're in it, please listen and observe.
Yeah.
No better advice could have been given to you. And kudos for you for recognizing it.
I
Lord knows
to,
I don't have the patience anymore.
I listened to y'all. I listened. I didn't let the public know my position until 9 months in. So that was just last month. But it really has worked. And I'm learning so much. And it's good.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. It really is. Even I see it in my life. So I told when you said it, I totally get it. So we said we're going to talk 3 topics. So we got to make sure. So just a reminder, folks, that you are watching a gathering place brought to you by the Gallagher Chamber of Commerce. And I do have to say this, that all opinions are not necessary of the organization. That's me becoming more mature in broadcasting. And we got 15 minutes, so time is going by. So we wanted to talk about the Super Bowl because when we saw each other this week, we just had this quick little intense conversation about the Super Bowl and the halftime show in particular. Do you remember how we even got into it? What was it? It wasn't antagonistic, y'all. We actually agreed because we were talking about the people were attaching, I guess, noting Eminem, I can't pronounce the man. Eminem kneeling, and then Snoop Dogg wore blue, even though he was told not to wear blue, but he slipped it in. And then there was another thing. The lyrics were anti-police, but they were told not to have anti-police lyrics. And we were saying people were like, oh, that's a protest, or they didn't like it because especially Eminem, when he knelt, they felt like, well, that's like 2 years too late or whatever and stuff. And we were saying, well, the whole show was problematic because if you know the history of the NFL, you know their recent stance and continuing stance. This is nothing new about the NFL, especially with happening the recent coach suing the NFL. And then the pushback on that, they immediately went into their talking points, attacking him. This has always been the NFL. So for me, and I'm just speaking for Maryland, it was already problematic that hip hop, which the hip hop old school that I know, and I can say that was more embedded in the culture, if I could say. So the hip hop, this is capitalism at work, folks. Yeah. So if you were looking for, their mere presence was a protest, my take on that, no, it wasn't. That was capitalism.
Absolutely.
Y'all mad about somebody kneeling, just the fact that they had a hip hop halftime show. And I'm not even talking about the quality of the performance. I am sure the entertainment was great. I follow these people. I love, Mary J. Blige and all of that. This is nothing about quality of entertainment. It was capitalism. And I don't buy the argument that this was some protest. Just the mere presence of being there was some kind of protest. Nah, that was capitalism. But your thoughts?
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing: the halftime performers never get paid by the NFL, so they get paid $0 to be there, right? So let's get beyond that. I again, this is misplaced energy, a distraction, because we should not be talking about Eminem kneeling. We should not be talking about Snoop Dogg's wardrobe choice or his lyrics. We should be talking about the insufficient and superficial moves that the NFL is making to get us off of their back and out of their books, because this is what needs to happen. We need to open up the door for more Black and a minority folk owners to come into the league. We need to start opening up the door for these NFL players, not just Black ones, but all NFL players, to have guaranteed contracts. How in the world I'm going to pay you, or say I'll pay you $1 million a year to join my team for 4 years? So a $4 million contract. But if you get injured playing my game on the first day, you're going to lose all of that money, right? That in itself, I'm risking my life and limb to entertain you, and you have the ability to not pay me for my damages, and I don't have any legal recourse here. Like, that's a problem. We have the difference between, now we have more Black quarterbacks, but that's just now gaining traction, and there's so much more that we need to change. That back office needs to change. The Players Association needs more power to negotiate for the players. Like, there's everything else that we're seeing right now. They brought Jay-Z on to help with this, and everything I've seen so far has been superficial. They're still making money hand over fist, but they're not making any changes that are substantive and that benefit the players or those who enjoy the game.
Well, that whole thing with Jay-Z, the moment they announced Jay-Z was partnering with the NFL, that was it. They literally were just announcing, this is the game we're going to continue.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, brains are getting scrambled. No Black head coach now, Pittsburgh, who should be celebrated because he's never had a losing season. Right. And it did briefly touch on it this year, but he's like the longest coach to have the longest winning seasons of his career in the NFL. That should have been blown up. I mean, real substantial change. You are correct. This is all performative, and I'm not mad about it because we live in a capitalistic society. I mean, it's the society we are living in, folks. I just get to work to try to change it. Yeah. And the older I get, I am actually much more liberal about economic system. I really am. Yeah. And government systems. Now, there's some things I'm more conservative about, and I hate saying that. But when it comes to economic systems, we will always be as the labor if you don't flip the system.
Yeah.
That's it. Because the system's capitalism is about exploitation of labor. Yep. That's what it is. And what you just described is you're running around the field getting your brain scrambled, and they could just not pay whatever, end your career. Oh, well, that's the price, and you spent 12, 18 years of your life getting to this point, and it can be done just like that.
Yeah.
Done. And you done. What you going to do? The fact that this is a league that literally on paper created research studies to show the Black players were inherently less intellectual.
Yeah.
So they could justify not paying and stuff. Well, this is before CTE. It came out in the investigation of CTE and how they handled it. But the NFL comes from a college football system was created to uplift white supremacy. So y'all got to understand that, because when they sent their sons, all these rich industrialists were thinking my son is getting weak because they're that next generation. He's been handed too much. So we got to think of a game to make them manly again. That was football. There are books about this. This is going back to our conversation with Ebony's question about these radicals. Information knowledge is dangerous. That's why they attack the public school system. They don't want smart people.
No.
They want drones and laborers in the capitalistic system, so certain amount of people will always maintain control of the wealth.
Yep.
All right. That's Black folks. It's just we've been identified because of our race, but it also impacts poor white people.
Yep.
It also impacts people of color, brown, Chinese, Asian American, etc. The otherization is so they can have a pool of cheap labor.
Yeah.
And even within this NFL system, yeah, you may be paid $1 million plus to play on this field, but they making damn sure you ain't $1 billion owner.
Right.
Or a coach. I even look at college football, that these coaches are making millions.
Whew. That's where I want to go. That college football.
And the NCAA fought for years. The NCAA is a multi-billion-dollar nonprofit.
Yeah.
That was denying, in general, young males the rights to their name.
Right.
To make money. And they were making millions off of some of these players if you were real popular, and denying it. Who the hell are you? I mean, you ain't my mama and daddy.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, y'all.
They couldn't even put their names on the back of their jerseys. Like, you know, and I just wrote this down here because I'm glad you went there to the college football. I really think, and I know there's 10 other examples that could be used, and I hate talking about this in this way, but I honestly believe that college football is the closest depiction of slavery that we still have today. And I want to preface this. You are out here doing 2-a-days in the hot sun, burning up in the field, working, tearing your body down. Because if you see any of these guys, a couple of folks that went to college with me, they've made it to the pro leagues, NFL. But there were some that were very, very talented that went and played college ball and injured themselves in college ball and was not even able to go to tryouts to try to make it to the pros. Like, so many guys never even physically make it out of college because they get so beat down and worn down, and they're doing it for free. They're doing it on a dream, and potential is nothing guaranteed. And I don't know how to better describe that than a system of slavery, because you're benefiting fully 100% off of their labor and their sacrifice, and they benefit zero. And if they're found to be benefiting financially, they are, expelled. There's a situation of a young guy in college, a Hispanic guy, who was expelled from the school because they found out someone had provided him with an apartment that his mom was coming and staying at because they were homeless. Like, this whole thing is wrong. It is dead wrong, and it needs to change. And the only reason it's not changing is because we go back to what you just said, capitalism. Folks are making too much money off of this free labor, and they refuse, whether it's right or wrong, moral or immoral, to fix it.
Yep. Yeah. And I do want to know, Ebony noted the college thing before I start talking. I didn't even see her remark. Yes. Then I put it up. So yeah, she was rolling with the same thought pattern we were rolling with too. But you are correct, Ebony. And but they set them up and they toss them away, either by injury, like I said, beat up that body, don't finish college, or those rules to get expelled and you're homeless. That's sick. That is a symptom of a sick society.
Yeah.
And something Ebony said earlier, I'm not gonna, if I can find it, but destruction of society does start from within.
Mm-hmm.
You look at every empire, the rise and fall of empires. Ultimately, it's not from the outside; it's from within that empires fall. And one other thing with the Super Bowl being a distraction, the fact that we're getting ready to go to war with Ukraine. That's another distraction, folks. So we got to pay attention to that too. I have that understanding, and I have to admit a little bit. I've tuned out Ukraine, and knock me on that if you want to, folks. But Republican, Democrat, I don't know enough about, and I really have started just this week to really study and understand what's going on with Ukraine and the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is I always pay attention to who's talking and how often they talk. And it was really irritating me. And yes, I voted for Joe Biden and go vote for him again. I'll let y'all know that right now. That you're literally telling us, we expect him to go to war. We're looking at going to war. You know, but what the hell are you really doing to stop him from going to war? We might do sanctions if you go to war. Well, do sanctions now. Yeah, this is America. This is America. We are an imperialistic state. You know, and that's why I said I'll get more radical in my old age, because once you see it, you can't unsee it.
No, you can't.
And that really, that's something I got to deal with, you know. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. The problems that this country has created, colonization, imperialism, and we don't necessarily have to go to war. Other countries can go to war, and certain pieces of society benefit from it.
Yeah.
Because I know with war, they always send our young boys and girls.
Yep.
Old folks don't go to war. People with money don't go to war. They just sit over it and send others into battle. And I'm a proud Air Force brat, and my father didn't want any of his kids to go in the military, and we did not. He did not spend 28 years of his life sacrificing a whole lot of stuff for his kids to go into military. And as I get older, I understand why, for many reasons.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm at the point where I'm pretty much a pacifist at this point because of that and the history. But once you see it, you just cannot unsee it. Any more thoughts about the Super Bowl? Because what we want to talk about CRT.
CRT.
Oh Lord. We're gonna have to take it to the next.
Yeah.
But you know, we got a program to attend that evening, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think it might be the weekend before, so I won't say anything. So we'll have to really get into then. But I have to say this, I am concerned about these radicals, conservatives running for school boards, and they're running on this anti-CRT, critical race theory. I was on a show yesterday where I was a speaker, and it came up, and we were talking more Black history, Black culture. But it really, I saw something on TikTok, and the gentleman was saying they couldn't use diversity, equity, and inclusion because they couldn't understand that. So they had to use critical race theory, because when you hear the word race, it's very reactionary.
Yeah.
People get emotional about it. So to manipulate people with these cultural wars, they had to find a critical race theory. And look what is happening. These people are not only attacking school board members and threatening violence, but they're running for school boards. And it's a very dangerous thing. And folks, we got to have y'all running for school boards.
We do. We still got time. We got a month and a half before filing closes all across South Carolina, and we need folks to run. We need to get ourselves organized. We need to start raising money to support folks, because they are organized already. Like, they are organized. They've been working on this for the last year. They've been fundraising for this for the last year, and they are coming strong. Like, we had the hearings at the State House for the the Education and Public Works Committee in the State House of Representatives here in South Carolina last week on Wednesday. One of the groups, Mothers for Liberty, came, and they expressed that they have over 8,000 members across this state, and everybody, they might have inflated their numbers, but I tell you, I don't dismiss it, because I see the energy that is behind their movement. They may be misguided, but they are not disorganized. And they came up there and shared why they disapprove of critical race theory. It's the concepts around it. And they said this, we can't have this in our schools. We can't afford it. Our children don't deserve it. And one of the moms, who was a member of the group, gave an example of her, I believe she said her 11-year-old child was in class, and her teacher was talking about the Holocaust and about Hitler. And she said that, and this is her quoting the teacher, supposedly saying that the teacher told the children that Hitler wasn't a bad man. He was just misguided. And that's why she started this march against CRT. And I messaged one of our representatives. I asked, please ask her for the receipts. Did she make a complaint? Is there a record of the complaint?
Are there other witnesses? Your child was the only one in the classroom?
Exactly. And I'm like, this is a good story when you're trying to get people of Jewish descent on your side to fight against, critical race theory. But we also just had the state superintendent of education, Molly Spearman, as egregious as she is, say that CRT is not in our public schools, nor is there any proposals for CRT curriculum, nor is there going to be any acceptance of any CRT curriculum in our public schools. So I sat back and said, we just had the superintendent of education say this isn't being taught, nor is there anything on the books as a proposal for the curriculum, nor will there ever be any consideration of it per the internal protocol of the South Carolina education system. So where's the problem? Somebody tell me, please, where's the problem? Because if the problem is not in the curriculum, where is the problem? This is a solution without a problem. And they are using this just to motivate people to come out. They're just using this as a carrot and a stick, I might add, to get people riled up, to get them to act outside of their own common sense. But their goal is to get them to the polls, and to get them to the polls to vote them out, those others out, those colors out, those people who are working with those woke folks out of office. So when Nikki, and I'm going to tie this together, I'm going to shut up real quick. Nikki Haley was at the State House 2 weeks before we heard everything about the CRT. And Nikki Haley came to the South Carolina State House to let Republicans know that they are going to have a well-funded, coordinated effort for Republicans to gain more seats across the state of South Carolina. More seats as in, from local municipal races all the way up to making sure they maintain their dominance over this state. I come back to say, from what I said a couple episodes ago, we got to get our stuff together as Democrats, as a Democratic Party. We need to build up our infrastructure. We need to wake up and look at this for what it is. They are seeking total domination over this state and its people. And they're the ones talking about they're fighting for freedoms and liberties, when they are the ones that are restricting and denying our freedom and our liberty, because they actually have the power to do so because they're winning elections. And if we don't get in the habit or in the mindset of winning these elections again, we are going to lose this whole damn thing for our children. And if that doesn't piss you off or motivate you to get off your couch, get off social media, and get in your community and organize and mobilize people, I don't know what else will. I'm gonna pull myself back here, Marilyn, because that's about to tip me off.
I'm just shaking my head because you speaking the truth. You saying it. We say this almost every time we get together on Third Sunday Politics Talk, and you said it today. You said it so eloquently, and it's so true. And Ebony's alluded to a little bit in some of her remarks with Georgia. It is on the local level. This is, people have to understand, this is deliberate, it's strategic, and it's intentional. To counteract that fire with fire, we have to be deliberate, strategic, and intentional. And it's not only politics, but politics is in everything. But it's the ecosystems that we create, whether it's small businesses, larger businesses, our education system, because it's all political.
Yeah.
So we cannot afford to stand on the sidelines, folks. I have been saying this for years. They want an apartheid system.
Yeah.
On the national level, it has been very apparent that is what they've been working towards. Yeah. They are now putting it in place locally and statewide because it will filter up, folks. And they've convinced too many of us that we don't have power. We do have power.
Absolutely.
But it's how you execute that power. One, you got to vote. You got to vote. But you got to get knowledge.
Yeah.
That's what they don't want you to have. That's why for the last 50 years, they've been attacking the public school system. This isn't new. The Tea Party was built on lies. You know, when some people, it just was, this thing has been going on since the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
It's just with Obama, it started breaking loose. But they had to lie to a lot of people to get them out emotionally. And people forget that because our memories are just so, we have selective amnesia. It's not just white folks, it's black folks, it's other folks too, people of color. We focus on these individual acts, but it's the systems.
Yeah.
We've got to look at the institutions. We've got to look at and flip those. It is rapidly coming to that point, folks.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want our systems? We could talk about what government isn't doing for me. We could talk about the banks. We could talk about these systems that we talk about. But what do you want to replace them with? And to replace them, you got to do work. Everybody talks about change. But no one understands you got to put the work in to make the change happen. Too many of us don't. We talk about it, but we don't do it.
Yeah.
And you have to do it to make change. And you got to get over yourself because there's a lot of fear involved. If you don't think Brandon is not fearful, this is a man with a family. I'm fearful. But I get over myself because there's a bigger issue going on here.
Yeah.
You know, I continue to get attacked. People don't even realize I have been attacked by my own people.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get up in the morning and keep on going. I know I have selected a certain lane that I'm operating in. And I'm going to operate in that. But you are right, Brandon, that this is CRT and this reactionary stuff just making up shit. They just make up shit. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
Just the recent manifestations are Tea Party, Trump, all of that is just empowering these folks. I had someone come up to me at dinner the other night after the city council meeting, plopped herself in the booth where I was eating, minding my own business with my colleague and friend, and I'm not going to call names, and just decided that she was going to, we just need to work together to end racism and everything. And what do we need to do? And I said, well, just stop being racist. And she didn't like that answer. She should have known from that first answer this was not going to go the way she thought it was going to go. She had to ask me again. That's what, stop being racist. Simple. And then she asked me some other questions, and she started getting upset to the point her husband her male companion, I should say, had to come get her in the space that I did not invite her in. But she used her white privilege. She thought her white privilege was going to work for her. Then he came and got her and said, oh, you're not going to change their minds. Well, hell, I didn't ask you to come to my table. What about changing my mind that this doesn't even come into play? But I keep coming up. I keep showing up, folks. I keep showing up, and I'm telling you this because this is real.
Mm-hmm.
This is real. And I'm telling this, the black and brown folks, those white folks too who are watching our show, if you think you're liberal, if you think you're progressive, if you want a better country, if you want a better world, talk is cheap. You can't be talking anymore, folks. These people are coming. It is very strategic. You are correct, Brandon. It is strategic, and we got to fight fire with fire by being more strategic, more intentional, and more deliberate with the change that we see. Get over ourselves. Y'all mad at Biden. Y'all got to vote this midterm.
Right.
Y'all got to vote in 2024. Literally, they want to. The Republicans don't have a platform. For those of you who don't understand political parties, when the parties meet at a national convention, they basically come up with their strategy, their plan, their platform. These are the issues we believe in. These are the positions we're going to take. They don't care enough to run government that they didn't even come out with a platform. Their platform is we want to retain power and control, and the hell with the rest of y'all.
Yep.
We don't care about the Constitution. We are willing to destroy the systems to retain the system of white supremacy. That we are now a party of white supremacy. That is what they believe in. That is what they believe in.
Yep.
So if you want to live under that, if you want to live under an apartheid system, keep doing what you're doing, just talking and not walking. You know? And that's what Brandon, it is. Yes, it is for future generations, but it's for now. Right now, y'all. They ain't doing this for 20 years from now. They're doing this right now. Right now. So if we don't get that in our heads real fast, if we don't get this in our heads real fast and start doing the work and start showing up to county conventions, Democratic Party conventions, political party conventions, because I'm supposed to be nonpartisan, y'all. But anyway. If y'all don't start showing up for those party conventions, if you don't start showing up to city, county council, school board meetings, if you don't start running, we all got a role to play.
Yep.
We're going to have an apartheid system right here. Right here. Because they literally have said, we don't care about the Constitution. We don't care about people. Ted Cruz flew to Cancun in the middle of an energy crisis where, 200 people died in Texas?
Yep.
And then let me tell you how evil shows itself. Blamed his child. Blamed his daughter for going to Cancun.
Ebony's right.
If that isn't evil, if that is not evil, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. And you talk about the apartheid system. We got that in Charleston, North Charleston, South Carolina right now, where, we got it in Columbia, South Carolina right now. We got it in Williston, South Carolina, where you have these majority black and brown communities that are being led and run by a handful of, white male Republicans. Like that's apartheid, the minority leading the majority. And it's a growing number. I'm sure I'm missing other places. We got Winsboro, South Carolina as well, as a great example. But I was looking at this comment that Vincent made, and it made me think about, our party. And I can talk about it because I'm the chairman of the South Carolina Democratic Party's Black Caucus. And I felt exactly what Vincent felt. We're always reacting to what the Republicans do. We're always reacting to their nonsense or to their strategy. They set and created a strategy for their party in this state and in these municipalities. And we can't get mad because they're carrying out their strategy. So in that, I said, okay, even as a caucus, I believe our caucus should have a long-term strategic plan. So we created our 5-year strategic plan. And now we are actually working that thing out. Our party, the state party, should have a 20-year strategic plan, in my opinion, because not only should we think about the election that's right now and the election to come, but there's so much to think about in the next decade, the next 2 decades. talking about my role at the state house, I realized, at working with our state representatives on the maps for redistricting, I realized that we didn't start coming up with our strategy for redistricting until the year redistricting happened. But the Republicans already knew what they wanted to do before we even cracked open a tablet or a computer. They knew how these lines and what the projections of the census was looking like. So they already had in their mind that, okay, this is our chance to get our supermajority. Now that we have a supermajority in the Senate, we can get it in the House. And the Democrats, literally, y'all, when they get a supermajority in the House and the Senate, Democrats can stay home for the entire session. And with every Democrat gone, there's still enough representatives in the House and the Senate to carry out a vote and carry out the business of the state. That means they have a 2/3 majority in the House and the Senate. There's nothing Democrats can do to stop them. So our strategy has to be different. But if we don't have a daggone strategy, we're going to be reactionary. So Vincent, I don't know where you are. I don't know what part of the state. Hopefully you're here in South Carolina, but I invite you to join the South Carolina Democratic Party Black Caucus. Work with us, bring Ebony and everybody else on here. I know Ebony is, works and helps us in different ways, but join us and help us do this so we can stop being reactionary. Again, I said it earlier, we got to get off our couch, get off of social media, put on our good boots, roll up our sleeves, and get to work. That's what the time is calling for, because it's not going to change itself.
It's not. And we are way over time.
Yeah.
We got on our roll today, and y'all, a lot of information. Not all I don't know some of these posts. I don't know what these people are posting to me. I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not hip hop enough. I don't know. I'm not hip enough.
No,
but either way, y'all, we covered 3 good topics today. The CRT school boards, and they went some ways that we didn't expect, but that's how we operate here. This is why we have this conversation every third Sunday, y'all. It really is. I learn a lot, and we hope that you're learning a lot. That's why I bring Brandon on, and Jamarr, when he could come on. They're having a bit of a voter crisis in Texas today. Y'all, this stuff is real. It is real. And Jamarr is physically, right now, mentally in the fight and what they're doing in Texas right now. And we're very proud of him and the work that he's doing. We talked about SCOTUS and the Black female selection and the Super Bowl and the halftime show. Y'all, all of this is actually connected. It's all connected. I love your term that you use, distractions. We have to be aware of these distractions. But that goes back to what you were talking about, or strategy. If you have a strategy, if you have a vision, you will recognize distractions really quickly.
Yeah. Because
they're not going to help you create that vision, that strategy, make it happen. So once you got a strategy, distractions fall to the wayside. Yeah. You recognize them very quickly. So even on a local basis, and I'll end with this, locally, y'all, have a strategy. What do you want your community to look like? What do you want it to be? Not look like, but be in 10, 20 years. Then to get together with some folks and come up with a strategy.
Yeah.
It's that simple. You don't have to wait for your leadership. You are the leaders. You are the leaders. What do you want your state to look like? Come up with a strategy. Work with like-minded groups and come up with a strategy and execute. What do you want your nation to look like? Because we are in fraught times right now nationally. We are very close to this democracy ending, this democratic republic ending. I don't think a lot of people are really paying attention to that. And that's probably next month too, because we are already over time. But this was a good show and wonderful comments and everything. Absolutely. And it's in Georgetown County. So thank you, Vincent, for coming on. Very true. And love the comments and everything today. Brandon, any last words as we wrap up?
I just want to leave y'all with this again. If I can convince you that you're less than what you are, I can convince you to accept less than what you deserve. And that convincing is happening every single day, and we got to fight back against it because we are more than they're telling us we are, and we absolutely deserve more than what we're getting.
That's right. That's right. Y'all, I'm not going to say anymore. That's the best way to end this show. We want to thank you for joining us on Politics Talk on a Gathering Place every third Sunday. So next month, come on and join us. I thought we were going to have a conflict, Brandon, but we're not.
No.
I'm sure you thought about that. But so on March 27th is the South Carolina Sunday dinner. Brandon, thank you for posting that. If you want to buy a ticket or a table, please go to the link below. This will benefit the South Carolina Democrat Party Black Caucus. So I am not endorsing this. This is just an announcement. We are nonpartisan here. But if y'all want to support that, and let me say that Republicans, if you want to come on, we welcome you too to come on a Gathering Place third Sunday Politics Talk. Yeah. We'd love to have you on because we want to hear from you too.
And we welcome Republicans to the South Carolina Sunday dinner as well. That's where we're breaking bread.
That's right. That's a good. Yeah, come on, break bread with us.
And be
am I getting a table, or do I need to do my thing to get a table?
Yep, that's you'll get a table with that.
With my sponsorship?
Yep.
Y'all, I'm a sponsor, y'all. I'm a sponsor. Yeah. Look at the invitation. Now, my name is on there. So I feel so important. All right, I get a table. So y'all come on, hang out with Marilyn and Brandon and break bread together and let's learn some stuff. We're going to be honoring Jesse Jackson, and Representative Jim Clyburn will be there. Are we honoring him also, or recognition? No. He's keynote speaker.
Nope. He's going to be there to support Reverend Jesse Jackson, and we're going to do some Partner in Progress awards for organizations and individuals who have been working in communities across South Carolina to advance and progress Black and Brown communities.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that. So y'all come on out, go to the link, support, and Republicans, because we're nonpartisan on this show.
Yeah.
Republicans, you too are welcome to attend the South Carolina Sunday dinner. And you're also welcome to come on a Gathering Place, because I know some of y'all are watching this show right now. So y'all come on. Come on. You're welcome. All right, Brandon. Always good to see you, Brandon.
Love you.
All right. Talk to you later. I'm looking forward to having Monica on the show next Sunday to talk about her book, but I'll advertise that during the week. Y'all, we got good things coming up. We'll see y'all. We'll see you later. See you later, Brandon.
See ya.
All right. Good night. All right, y'all. Thank you for joining us on the Gathering Place a little bit longer today, because when we do politics talks, we get into it, we roll, but we love it, and that's why we're here. And we just want to say thank you for joining us today. Wonderful comments. Always appreciate y'all coming on and joining us. Just want to remind you that this coming Wednesday at 4:00 is Public Health Awareness. So St. James Health and Wellness will join us and give us some word about what's going on with COVID and their healthcare services at St. James, and also public health theme for the month of March. There's a lot going on. And also then coming Sunday, Monica Upson will join us. She's an author. She has a new book coming out. Well, it's already out. And it's number 11 on the best-selling list, and we want that to grow higher on that list. So as always, we are always happy to have you here on Politics Talk every third Sunday on a Gathering Place. Enjoy you today, folks. Thanks for your comments, and we'll see you later. Good night.